Hey, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today I'm doing the third video in a series on the latest release of OrcaSlicer. So let's go ahead and get started. At present, OrcaSlicer 2.3.2 has had two beta releases and then two release candidates. If we go through here and look at all these features, there's a ton of stuff here to review. Now, my previous videos, I've done an overview and then looked at bridging and flow. In this video, I'm going to look at some of the multi-material settings. Unfortunately, I don't have a material changing unit that's compatible yet, so I'm patiently awaiting that. But again, if we look through all this, there's a lot of great new features that I think would be helpful, particularly if you're doing multicolor prints, and also just to help stabilize prints. And I'll point out, at least in my case, that I've been printing some taller models, and so I have experienced some issues, and I'm hoping some of this will actually help change and improve what I've put together. So with that being said, let's go ahead and switch over and take a look at OrcaSlicer. The first thing I want to point out is just a feature I've never really utilized in OrcaSlicer, but I think it's been there a while, and I know it's been at least in the previous release because I just looked. And I've never really used this, but if you right-click, there's an Add Handy Models, and you can basically have it automatically load any of the standard testing models you would use. At least on my channel, I use a lot of Benchies, Cali Cats, and some of these other ones here. And what's funny about this, I've always had to go find the model where I store it in a folder, and then turns out I could just right-click and add it that way. But I've loaded the Stanford Bunny here, and if you notice, this is currently showing as a two-color print. Now, you really don't see it here. There's only one color showing. What I've done is change this to use a different material. In my case, the bunny is actually PETG, and then I'm doing the support in PLA. Now, that's really not necessarily an ideal situation due to the temperature changes between filaments. You're more likely to cause clogs this way, but there are ways to mitigate that and some other suggestions, which I won't cover here. Now, I just want to show how I set this up. So I loaded the bunny, have that set to PETG, go over to support, and then you just want to change the filament for supports. And I can change it back so it's all PETG. So right now I've changed the model back over to PETG. I can leave it on default, which will do whatever the model filament is. I'm just going to change this from to PLA. Now, it does recommend we change everything here. So I'm just going to change this. So now it's changed over. Now, where this is particularly interesting is I probably could sit here and mess with this and do the model in ABS, but do the brim and do the support in PLA. And there's been some research out there that shows if you do it that way, you can actually print on PLA and you might not need an enclosure. And I may test that in a future video. Have the model set up, slice it. You'll see that the filament, once it processes, it has a purge tower. Now, one of the new features, if I go over here to multi-material, you'll notice enable tower interface features. And what that does is that changes the temperature of the nozzle to heat the nozzle so it's hotter on layers where these interface. And ideally, that's helping the tower stick together. Because one of the problems with the tower, if you look at it, it's really tall. And if you have some delamination, that can ruin the model. On a model that takes forever to print, that's not a great thing. So we can check that, and that'll actually hopefully make the tower stronger. So again, we'll process, and we have that feature on. I want to point out a couple other things with this model. One of the other newer features is a change in how the infill is being processed. So I'm just going to go through here. What they try to do now with the infill, and let's go over here and look at strength, is the idea with the infill is it's going to try to make these corners smoother and more rounded. Now, why would it do that? Well, if you do that, if they're smoother, the print head is less likely to slow down at these intersections, and therefore they won't be thicker. With traditional infill, it's possible with real sharp corners that the print head slows down, you get a little bit of blobbing, so you'll get thicker and wider infill corners. And what'll happen is it's more possible for your print head to knock against those, basically rub against the top and cause some type of vibration or other problem. Now, when you have that happen, that's a case particularly on a tall model where it can knock your model over. And because, again, you're having some vibration from the nozzle barely touching the infill. So I'll just switch over real quick to the release notes, and you can sort of see this feature. So as per the description here, it's basically improving the smoothness of the extrusion and mentions those rounded corners for that infill. And that should, again, really help improve things. Now, the last feature I just want to highlight, this again has a quality issue with it and can reduce stringing, and that is the Z-hop improvements. So let's just take a quick look at Z-hop. So if I go over here, I'm going to click on my printer. I'm going to click over on extruder and scroll down to Z-hop. Now there's several types of Z-hop: normal or auto, normal, slope, and spiral. Spiral basically does a twist to the nozzle as it's lifting up the nozzle off the model. The idea being that that twist causes it to basically break off the printer. If you've ever seen somebody make an ice cream cone with an ice cream machine, you swirl the ice cream cone around, and then you do a fast swirl at the end to try to break off the ice cream so it doesn't keep pouring out. In slower printers or printers with a budget board, you sometimes have cases where this movement could be too complicated. And because the complication, the printer would pause, which would cause blobbing. And so you'd have maybe little pimples in certain areas with the Z-hop. Right now, they've reduced the amount of segments and simplified it so that budget boards can better process these movements. So what this should mean is a better quality of your print with less maybe bumps and pimples. Now let's switch over to OrcaSlicer and take a quick look at it. So as I mentioned, you just need to go over here to your printer. You're going to extruder, and then you go down here to Z-hop type, and you can select spiral. Now I've done a video on this in the past, and I'll link to that in the video description where I looked at different settings for stringing. But these are, again, some of the new features in OrcaSlicer. I think I'm going to do one more video to identify some other new things going on. If there's something you'd like to see or you have questions or comments, please post them below. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Have a good day.
Hey, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for supporting the channel and also let you know that if you're interested, I've recently launched a Patreon page. On Patreon, I have 2 membership options, which for just $5 a month, that really helps me out and generates some additional income that I use to plow directly back into the channel. Part of the benefits of supporting me via Patreon, I've taken a lot of the tools I've developed over the years. You can still use all the tools, the calculators, and I'll continue to add functionality. But what I've done is like in the case of the OrcaSlicer settings, you now have the ability to export out these new settings that it's generated for you as an OrcaSlicer profile. Over on the cost calculator, you now have the ability, you can save your invoices so you can go back to them, some reviews and analysis. If you're logged in with Patreon, you click Analyze, it'll actually go out, find video with the most number of clicks. So I also have reviews and analysis on various 3D printers so you can get some additional information. So again, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. And now let's go back to the video.